Look at that beauty. Welcome to the studio. We got lots of books to talk about today. So right now I'm gonna head to my local bookshop because I got a call the other day that a book that I ordered is in, and so we'll talk about that a bit later, but they're gonna close in like half an hour, so I need to go and do that. I can't see. Yes, and under the tunnel. Nyong. I'm just here to pick up an order for BJ Ingate. Oh, you too, see ya. Something tells me that sitting in a bright yellow car from the 70s in the main street of a big town with a giant camera sitting next to me somehow draws some attention. I've so far had 3 people come up and talk to me, one of which was when I pulled up and I was in a hurry to get to the bookstore before it closed. And this lady was there with her granddaughter. I like having an old car for that reason, because people come up and talk to you, but it's only a problem when I'm trying to do stuff. Anyway, we'll talk about that a bit later. For now, I need to go find somewhere a little bit quieter. There's so much cable. Why is there so much cable? All right, will it start? It always seems to not start first time when I'm in public. I don't know why that is. Can I turn right here? Yes, I can. This is a very strange intersection. There's a very low tree branch. For the uninitiated and the new to the channel, welcome. I like books, and I've been trying to read more for the last couple of years. And so each year I try and make like a recap video of all the books I've read. So that's what this video is. So I'm gonna go find somewhere that doesn't have a man mowing, and we'll talk about books. It's gonna be good. I think this street will be quiet enough that I can record here and have my window down, which is very important because it's summer and this car does not have air conditioning, so I really need the windows to be down. Is my audio okay? I don't know. So anyway, welcome to the new recording studio. My room is currently empty and being renovated. My desk is currently in my parents' lounge room, and my good microphone that I always record on is currently at Chester's house in the podcasting studio because we needed a lot of extra mics for the new season of the podcast we're doing. By the way, have you listened to Dark Tides? It's on Apple and Swoopify, and you better listen. Brand new prequel show called The Ever-Pleasant Mr. Bates, coming to you next month. Be ready. So last year I made a recap of all the books I read, and this year I'm going to do another recap in my ghetto recording studio. Starting it off with this one, Star Wars Thrawn, Ascendancy, Chaos Rising by Timothy Jan. It's a Who is messaging me? Go away. I'm recording a video. Very long name. If you watched last year's video, you know that I read the Thrawn series, the Star Wars Thrawn series, and this is the first book in a prequel trilogy to that. So I read that. Yeah, it's pretty good. It's very interesting because it's a Star Wars book that is not set in the Star Wars universe. It's kind of set outside of the part of the galaxy that we're familiar with in Star Wars. So that's interesting. So I read that, and I also read the second one, which came out partway through the year. I just finished this one a couple of weeks ago, actually. They're both pretty good. If you liked the Thrawn series, I definitely recommend reading them. The covers. The covers. I genuinely think that these are the best looking book covers of anything I have read ever. Like, this one came out and I was like, oh my goodness, that's the best cover I've ever seen. And then this one came out and it's even better. I'd say the first book in the Thrawn series was probably better than these. They do have a tendency to start getting just a little bit repetitive because it's kind of politics and space battles, and he's been writing politics and space battles since the first Thrawn book. So by the time you get to like the second one of the new trilogy, I'm worried that maybe it's like starting to run out of ways to make Star Wars politics and space battles interesting. I don't know. I wouldn't say they're the best books in the Thrawn series, but they're pretty good, and they're definitely refreshing if you like Star Wars but you want to read something a little bit different, but you're not quite ready to jump into a whole new sci-fi universe, it might be a nice bridge for you. Now, speaking of these books, the whole reason I came out here was because the other day I ordered the third one because it's just come out. I haven't actually looked at the cover yet. I saw it briefly as she handed it over the counter to me. So I'm gonna open this bad boy up and we're gonna have a look at it. There's a receipt, that's good. Oh, it's thick! Ooh. Would you look at that book? It's a nice book, it's a very nice book. Considerably chunkier than the other two. The second one was like a tiny bit thicker than the first one, but this one's like, that's like 120 pages longer than the last one. But for now, let's get to what you actually came here for, which is the rest of the books that I read this year. After I read the first Thrawn book, I read this one, which is The Toff and the Deep Blue Sea. It's by the same author that did the Baron series. Again, I've talked about that in last year's video, if you saw that. But it's a different character. It's all right. Cover's not great. I read it very quickly. As adventure books go, pretty good. But I definitely prefer the Baron as a character over the Toff. So there you go. I always forget how awkward it is filming in public until you actually go and do it. And then people walk past and look at you in your car with a lot of books. Okay, the next one I read was Man's Search for Meaning by Viktor Frankl. And this book is honestly incredible in every way. Just read it. That's about all I need to say about that. Been thinking about making a separate video just about this book because it was very good. Very quick outline. Viktor Frankl was a psychologist, a working professional psychologist in Austria in the 1930s. And during the Second World War, he was taken and put in a concentration camp by the Nazi regime and spent his time in the concentration camp studying the people around him and doing a case study on like himself and the people around him and how they coped psychologically with being put in a Nazi death camp. So the first half of the book is kind of a summary of his experiences while he was in the camps, and then the second half is sort of a breakdown on his kind of theory of psychology and therapy, and it is hands down the best book I've read this year. It's fairly short, it's really not a commitment, and it's incredibly engaging, and it kept me hooked more than any other book I've read this year. So if you take anything from this video, please read this book because it's absolutely incredible, and it really changed the way I see the world in a very profound way. I might make a separate video on it someday anyway, but very good. So after that incredibly deep philosophical book, I needed a bit of a break, so I read another John Creasy. This one was called Case for the Baron. Again, 50s mystery, suspense, fiction. The Baron is an ex-jewel thief who is like working with the police now, but also trying to not get caught by his past. I could have just driven home, and then all the cars would have just not been here. They're pretty formulaic, but they're just so much fun. These books and these kind of genre of books are just my like reading comfort food. They're quick to read, they're easy, they're engaging, they're exciting. The plots are always good, and it's such a nice like window into time. They're always good. The Baron especially is just fantastic. And then I read another one later in the year called Reward for the Baron. They were both great. If you can get your hands on a John Creasy, you will enjoy it. Yes. Now there's Bert. What else? Shut up! Okay, so next I read Clutch of Constables by Ngao Marsh. So this one is set and written in the late 1960s, so a little bit later, but similar idea. This one is more your typical Agatha Christie type murder mystery. Absolutely fantastic, very, very driven by the characters. There's not a whole lot that happens in the plot. There's only one murder. It happens like halfway through the book. I really don't think it's a spoiler to tell you that there's a murder in the book because it's on the back, I think. Oh, there's two murders. Is there a second murder? Oh yeah. Fantastic. I think this one probably deserves its own video too, so let me know if you want to see that. Really great. Fascinating. I thought this book was really interesting because it's a lot more character driven and a lot less plot driven than some of the other books that I've really enjoyed. And it was really interesting to me that it still really captured my attention the whole way through the book, despite the fact that it was, yeah, not a whole lot happens plot-wise, but just the writing is so good, and there's yeah, the writing style and like the tone that the author uses and the way the characters are described, they just feel so real and so memorable. Like I could probably tell you all of the characters in this book still, despite the fact that I read it months ago. Like they just really stick in your memory. Definitely recommend this one. And again, I think this probably deserves its own video one day. Maybe if I ever make videos again. Who knows? The way the world's going, anything could happen. I tried young adult sci-fi. Got just over halfway through it. Took me 3 attempts to get that far. Wasn't great. I don't know. It was just sad because I really wanted to like it. The plot and the mystery that's set up in the first couple of chapters is very compelling, and I was really excited to dive into the story because it was a new sci-fi world that I hadn't experienced before. And the mystery of the main character and where she comes from and everything is really good and compelling. And then after the first couple of chapters, it just gets really bogged down in teenagers arguing with each other. Like all of the characters in the books are, I think pretty much they're all 18 years old. And so all of their problems are like 18-year-old teenager problems, which is fine. Like I don't have a problem with that. But I picked this book specifically because I knew that it was like a sci-fi space opera book. And I feel like the sci-fi space opera mystery element of the plot is the bit that really grabbed me, and it always is taking a back seat to the like pettiness of the character. Does that make sense? I think if like teen romance is what you're really into and you want to like try something a little bit sci-fi, this might be really good. But I really love sci-fi, and I'm not against teen romance, but I just felt like it took over so much of the plot that you just go through chapter after chapter of when will all these characters shut up and stop bickering so I can get to the mystery. Aurora Cycle Book 1, Aurora Rising. Yeah, I guess it's a book. I didn't like it, but you might. And while I was struggling with that book, I read this, which is Till We Have Faces. It's another C.S. Lewis. I made another whole video about this, so yeah, I'm not going to talk about it now. Just go watch my content, damn it! Okay, and then the next book I read, I don't actually have with me, which is very sad, because I always try and have the books to show you, mostly because I like holding them, because books are nice. But after that, I read a book called He Shall Thunder in the Sky by Elizabeth Peters, which is, I think, book 7 or 8 in her Amelia Peabody series. And I don't have it because someone lent it to me, and then I gave it back when I was finished. And it was pretty good. I believe the whole series spans like quite a few years in the character's life. And I haven't read any of the others. I only read this one because it was particularly recommended to me as being one of the better ones in the series. And so the one I read was set at the beginning, like the outbreak of World War I, like a few months into the First World War. And it's set in Egypt. So the main character, Amelia, is a Egyptologist. And she's married to another Egyptologist, I think. Yeah, it's your classic mystery story set in, 1915, I guess it was, or 1914, 1915, in Egypt. And I think the best part about the book was the location and, like, seeing that world, seeing early 1900s Egypt through the eyes of a character who lives there. And I believe Elizabeth Peters did a lot of research around the time period, and she also lived in Egypt for a long time, so it's fairly accurate. The story, again, the overall arching story mystery was really good and really quite compelling. It just was a little bit like, it was a long time between major plot points, almost like a soap opera type way, and then the mystery surrounding it was like really life and death espionage, like national security level stuff. So it felt very convenient. Like it felt very convenient that these very well-known, rich, high society characters had all of this high society, like, gossip stuff happening, and they also just happened to be the key players that were involved in this national security scandal between, like, the British Empire and, like, the Egyptian rebel army, and, like, all of that. It's almost like it needed to pick one or the other. Like, it's either a high society soap opera set during the First World War, or it's, like, a gritty adventure story, and it was kind of like it was trying to do both. And there was a lot where I realized, like, I was reading chapter after chapter, and then I kind of realized there's actually not much happening. Like, you're giving me all these details, but really all that happened in that chapter was, like, they went to dinner somewhere, she talked to someone about wanting her daughter to marry someone, all of that stuff happened, and then we got a tiny extra plot point. It's a little bit almost like Pride and Prejudice or something like that, which is totally fine. I'm not against those type of stories. I love Pride and Prejudice, but it's almost like you need to pick one or the other. It's either high society drama about relationships between characters, or it's war, espionage, adventure, and it was kind of like trying to do both. But I will say the saving grace of that book was one of the characters, Ramses, the main character's son. He is such a good character, and his like love interest story was really compelling. So I pretty much finished the book entirely because of Ramses. So honestly, overall the story was okay, but I really enjoyed it purely for one character, and I think that's good. And again, maybe it was just because I identified with him because he's my age and all of that. But book in general was okay, but Ramses as a character, absolutely fantastic. And then after I finished the Elizabeth Peters, I read the second book in the Thrawn trilogy, which I already talked about at the beginning. I forgot to mention before, I also read like half of, oh, you can't see it, half of this book, which is called The Way of Wisdom by Timothy Keller. And it's just like a daily devotional, kind of a Bible study / little bits of wisdom from Proverbs. I only read half of it though, because it's like organized as a 365-day thing, and I only started reading it in like June, so I just skipped to June and started from there. But yeah, it was pretty good. That's all the books I read in 2021. Shockingly, despite the fact that I wasn't studying full-time, I wasn't traveling back and forth to Sydney all year, and I had a whole lot more time than I did the year before, I read less books. Humanity is a great mystery. Thank you so much for watching the video. I hope you enjoyed it. I hope it's maybe inspired you to do some more reading. I've done a few other videos on books and reading and the books that I've read, and like I said, I've done a review of this one, so if you want to go check that out, it's on the channel. We also have a podcast. It's an improvised audio drama. We're currently on a hiatus after finishing our second season, so if you want to go look that up, it's on Apple and Spotify and all those things. It's completely free, and we have 2 whole seasons of backlog, which is like 50 something episodes. But thank you very much for watching. Hopefully I'll see you at some point, if not next year when I make the next one of these videos. I hope you have a fantastic day. There's like 4 cars coming out. You know what? I'm just going to ignore them. I'm definitely excited to read this. I'm glad I was able to get it, and hopefully that will feature in next year's video sum up of all the books I read. How do you end a video like this? Like, I've said everything I wanted to say, but I still want a really compelling thing, you know, to leave the viewers on. Like, yeah, this is how I'm going to end my video. This is the, you know, welcome to, you know, welcome to the channel and all that. Like, I feel like I want to do some big standout, like, joke, or, you know, say something really inspiring or interesting, or like do something memorable so that people will remember. The car's not starting. So that people will remember the video, you know, remember me, and like be interested to come back for more and all of that stuff. That's, you know, like you really want to end your video in that way, just to make an impact and so that people remember you. Yeah. Joke's on you, because I recorded that clip after I got home. Look, I can prove it. Video is always fake. Remember that.